and the Q agenda speed affiliates with a certain individual. Be ready. This individual is
everybody, welcome to episode 45. We have a special live in-person type thing going on today. You may notice it's a little bit different. It's not the normal studio here. What it is for Blue. Blue, how are you?
I'm good today, Mike.
Good. Hey, this is wonderful that we're actually together, sitting in nature. We're out here in the country in Florida, and a lot of people, well, they don't get to experience this. So let me just open up with that if you don't live in the country, go find somebody that lives in the country and go make a visit, because this is a totally different experience. I'm not a big city guy, but at the same time, I enjoy my peace and quiet. And it's wonderful out here, don't you think?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, 45, I promised everybody in 44 a big announcement today. We are going to have that big announcement, so please make sure you stay tuned. We're going to talk about a couple other things first, though. What are we going to talk about here first in 45?
Well, one of the things that are a major concern right now is the circulatory modes of the crops being established and how they are putting that agenda outwards. We're talking about genetically modifying things to a superficial extent, which causes more problems for mankind, causes more health issues, causes more environmental problems. We do not need an excess of spray-ons upon certain crops, and I do a lot of that now. We do not need modifications of the actual plants or fruits, vegetables, even the foods, the meats, the byproducts itself. They are having crop strikes because of the way things are being elevated currently. They want to take the foundations, and it's not just spray-ons, they either want to rip away the foundations of the farmlands where they establish the good things for mankind out there. They want to take that away. They want to put foundations of buildings or other fortification speeds into the exempt. We can't do that. We have to create an equal opportunity between the lands, the creatures, and the people itself. If we cannot create an equal opportunity, things are going to become more of a decommissioning mode. We don't need that. Agriculture, it's very important for mankind. And they got to learn to utilize that proper.
You know, it's not long ago, I can remember looking at just everywhere I looked, not the MSM, not the mainstream media, but everywhere I looked, I could find a story about a food processing plant going up in flames or getting shut down for some reason, and Monsanto having a big impact on farmers. And now that's a big thing overseas even right now, is with the regulation on the fertilizers and so forth. I think the farming community, who have been farming for hundreds of years, I think they know what they're doing. Like, I don't think we need to do all these GMOs and these seeds that don't regenerate. You know, it used to be a time you could take a tomato, and when you went to the store, you bought a tomato, and then you could throw it in the dirt and you'd grow a tomato plant. You can't do that anymore. Those seeds are designed and genetically modified, so you can't do that. Do you think that we're getting oversaturated with GMOs and it's past the point of no return, or do you think we're at a point where we can rebound from this still?
We're getting to a point where food products are being on a bilateral term that's not causing good wavelengths for mankind. Even for vegan foods. I bought a product just recently the other day, and won't touch it again.
Right.
I never ate it, but when I opened it up, it's like with noodle packets. I don't remember which company. Thai something. And it's like the pre-made, pre-cooked noodles,
yeah.
Right? It smells like Play-Doh. It looks like Play-Doh. It feels like Play-Doh. I bounced it and molded it up, and it bounced like a damn piece of Play-Doh. I'm like, I'm serious. Are we kidding here? We need to go back to preschool, because noodles, even vegan based, aren't supposed to be like that.
Yeah.
If it's going to come to this, where the products, and they go in rice too, not all rice products, but watch what you intake, because some of it's plastic.
Yeah.
It's not even considered rice. They modify a lot of the foods, and on a wavelength that's not good for mankind whatsoever.
You know, they say that margarine's one molecule away from being plastic. So I mean, that's when we should have been alerted, was in the 70s or so, when they first came out with margarine instead of butter. You know, it reminds me of other things I've seen in the news cycle too, where China and Bill Gates are buying up a lot of the farmland. Do you think that China and Bill Gates are lining up to control the food a little better so that they can move forward with these other things that we're talking about?
Pre-exempt terms on a modification sorts that doesn't need to be on a good agenda for mankind. There needs to be a better pre-exempted push to motivating things forward, and not something that's going to cause more of an instability for the whole entire planet.
If I'm watching this and I'm a normal, just everyday Joe, and I just, you know, but our fans aren't normal everyday Joes, by the way. They're very intellectual, very smart. What can I do as the common man, the everyday man? Is there anything I can do besides not buy those products and read carefully? Is that all I can really do, you think?
Well, if you have farmland, grow your own crops. Don't use the modification spheres that people use their byproducts. Use something natural. Utilize, maybe if you're going into stores and you don't have that, getting more of a ground-based formational speed. Something that is not unorganic, something on an organic-based status code. But even with the organic products, you got to be careful from where it's manufactured at. There are certain places that they manufacture these organic products. It don't even come out right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The bananas are mainly one of them. Now they're dealing with apples, they're dealing with potatoes, some are yams, a whole bunch of other different types of products. Pay attention. Pay attention to what you get. Look into it. Look at the ingredients, where it comes from. And if you want to feel more safer, make your own foods. Make your own, grow your own crops. Get the seeds from the crops, regrow it.
Get some chickens.
Naturally, they genetically modify a lot of them too. So if you don't want to be vegan, you still want to be your own base status code and on both agenda speeds, hey, just respect nature a bit better. And watch what you intake.
Makes a lot of sense. Anything else we need to cover before we move on with our big part of the show here?
Well, fuels that would have to go into electromagnetic disturbances upon what Starlink has progresses.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, major disturbances upon the field, and the exemplary node of what they have to do with the communications and the satellites. There are certain perimeters or certain organizations that would try to take these stabilization points from Starlink or SpaceX itself and try to utilize it on their own agenda. That is not good. Starlink is meant for an access point to protect and proact the communications, proact to help better stabilize the whole system where the screen layer is through the matrix itself. It's not something to be used as a weapon per se. And there are certain speeds of effect that want to utilize this. And that type of the equation is not for it.
So, not for nothing, but and this is going to be off topic, and I apologize, but sitting here I got distracted because that refrigerator door opened by itself over there, and that's blowing my mind.
There are spirits here.
I was going to ask you
Yes.
that because I've been experiencing stuff like that on my own, in my own house, and I thought it was just me.
On the property, person, who owned it passed away, and a couple other people, so they were good people, though.
It's giving me chills,
yeah.
folks. Give me chills. I was just saying, and I apologize for going off topic like that. Get back into what this thing is with Starlink and Musk and what. I like Musk a lot. I think he's a good guy. We've established he's a good guy, right?
Yes, like I said, there's certain organizations that would try to utilize his technologies for their own agenda, which isn't good. And with those organizations, they either need to be proactively decommissioned or find an all-tuned base to ArcNet and better protection layers through the data streams and analyze streams that Musk deals with. So we're not dealing with negative agenda speeds that would try to decommission what mankind already has, especially with the communications in everyday life they deal with.
Now, we've talked about Musk being a special individual for a long time, and we've talked about him possibly being from another time, another place, another dimension, another somewhere else in the universe even. And I still stand behind that claim. I think there is something more. I think you can go back through history and look at certain people, the founding fathers of this country, Benjamin Franklin. You can go back to Thomas Edison. You can go back to certain people through history that were so far, Tesla, people that were so far and so much advanced. We still stand, you stand by that, right? That there's something different about Musk, right?
Yes, proactive later, he being one of several Nexus beings that have actually come onto this dimension from another alternated universe.
See, that's scary when you just hear it. And if you don't unpack that, and if you don't preface it like I did, you're going to think that that's a bit unusual. But if you think about it, this is the guy that's behind X. He bought Twitter, named it X. He was behind PayPal, Starlink, SpaceX, Tesla. He had PayPal back in the day. He's got Neuralink. He's got the Boring Company, does the tunnels. Every one of those things I just mentioned are highly successful on their own individual merits. Now you put all those things together, and the one guy behind it is Elon Musk. How incredible is that? How lucky are we to live in a lifetime where we can say we lived at the same time period as this guy? I imagine if I lived at the same time period as an Edison or as a Ben Franklin or whatever, I would sit there and go, wow, this is awesome. But do you think he's going to end up still being on the right side? Do you think the evil in this world, do you think the bad things that happen, do you think those are going to be able to tamper him down? Or is this good versus evil going to be winnable for Musk and company?
His organizations, his companies would be a good leeway point for mankind. It would be an opening for something on an equal opportunity, not just for us star seeds, but for the next generation itself. Something that would ultimately co-create better advancements, more knowledgeable terms for laws, and the proactive sphere of being able to motivate and maintain distribution scenes between this planet and other planets itself. Mars, the moon, or something that would become a stability point for an on-level ground to be able to live on between 1 out of 3 planetized grids out of several, and the factors that remain if he and the organizations that run with him are not destabilized because of certain negative apertures.
You know, you look around and you look through history, there's always been tribes of people or areas of people that have been undefeatable. You can't defeat certain people. I'll give you an example here. I'm of the belief that when we went to Afghanistan and some other places, we shouldn't have gone there. And we had the largest, most mechanized, most intelligent armies in the world. And that region is still a wreck over there after 20 years and billions, trillions of dollars. So my question is are we seeing that you can defeat people like Musk by going back to like ancient war tactics, like commando type stuff like the Taliban and other people would use in Afghanistan against our forces? Is that invasion happening at the southern border now? I see a lot of military age young people from China, from all over the world. Is it that simple that they don't have to be highly mechanical or highly intelligent like a Musk is? They can work on, even if it came down to throwing rocks. I mean, do you think there's an older set of people with older? Are we being infiltrated? Are we being set up? Are we being?
I've heard of a diagnosis streams of an avatar being simplified into another form. The authorical strands and the DNA strands of the avatar or structure being pulled into another form itself. Think about how a lot of the death tolls are being elevated recently across the planet, and how a lot of they have different specified beings in amongst the masses, and then they're re-elevating the event and want to have more humans into the effect. You know, having more birth rates of control and loss. Well, there are types of beings in between that control and lost the authorical strand that were polarized from another dimension altogether, and or dimensions. Those entities are stuck in the reciprocals of certain points of mankind, and they're not considered good.
Because it's like, where are all these people coming from? I mean, all of a sudden they're showing up.
There are entities that are scattered abroad in and amongst certain immigrants. Not all of them, and I'm not saying all immigrants are bad. I'm not going to be
right.
prejudiced.
Exactly. No, exactly.
No.
There's a right, but there's a right way and a wrong way to do things.
We're not going to be racist.
Yeah, exactly.
But there are certain entities within the masses that don't have neural good standards, and they wouldn't want to have a good control wavelength for the masses. They would want to reproduce something on a negative control wavelength, and we don't need that.
Yeah, I can remember hearing about years ago and being told that don't worry about the Great Reset. Don't worry about a pandemic that would never happen. Don't worry about us changing all the money from the central banking system into something else that we can really tighten the screws on you, like they did in Canada with the trucker strike. They just shut down their bank accounts electronically. They couldn't do nothing. They couldn't buy fuel to keep warming their truck or nothing. It's crazy. So, and Elon, we're talking about Elon. He's big in Dogecoin. I mean, he's right where he needs to be everywhere in the market, and that guy just amazes me. And we can't go a show without talking about him. So see, we snuck Elon in there again, but that brings me up to our next topic here and our big announcement for the show for 45. I think it's important that we talk about this, and a lot of times we don't, simply because, or if we do, we hint around about it. So we're going to talk about the 17th letter in the alphabet right now. I'm going to be careful how we say things and what we say actually here. So if you don't understand what we're talking about right away, that's okay. Replay it. And that reminds me, you can go back to previous shows and click on the link onto any topic on our channels, and it'll take you right to that topic so you can get caught up or listen to something again or see what Blue's opinion was on something else here. Blue's got a lot more than opinion, though. Blue has a lot of facts. That's why we do this show here. We're going to talk about the 17th letter of the alphabet, and for those of you who are now on the same page with me, you remember us hearing about everything that was going to happen, and a lot of people got discouraged and said, oh, these things aren't going to happen. Well, a lot of them happened. See, we had a pandemic. We were supposed to be in a war by now, and all these things were going to play off each other. I'm convinced that's why we have some of the issues we've already talked about today with invasion or immigration or whatever you want to call it. But that certain individual, we were told, was some random dude in a Washington, D.C. apartment was Q. And there I said the word. I probably shouldn't have said the word there, and I might have to edit that out, or I might have to beep it out. But my question is, do we really think that's who that was? Now, Blue, you're very fortunate with your positions. Why don't you explain to everybody again, who might be new to us, about your positions, what you do, and what you know about this individual that we're talking about, the 17th letter of the alphabet.
Well, I'm a Unified Federation President, Commander in the Space Force Extraterrestrial Department, and quantum twin to Donald Trump. And what I deal with in my department deals with a lot of in-between-the-scenes scenarios that most of mankind are not aware of yet. And the Q agenda speed affiliates with a certain individual. Be ready. This individual is Elon Musk. Elon Musk deals with quantum. Q doesn't deal with just the on of things. It also deals with the quantum side of things. The higher perceivable effects of, yes, extraterrestrials, yes, extraterrestrial technologies. And if we want to get deeper into the picture, we would talk about Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla had to deal with extraterrestrial technologies and the coordinational spheres and motivations between a certain prioritizing of Donald Trump, his affiliations, the Kennedys, motivationals of hyperterrestrial technologies, Area 51, motivating the scenes of effect in between the space organizations and their secret programs, and affiliated terms of moving things forward. Elon Musk himself mainly polls open and will be motivating things for the next reciprocal age, and that includes Mars, it includes the moon, it includes us star seeds as well. What are star seeds? Our star seeds were generators and motivators that affiliate and motivate through different timeline dimensions or alternated universes. Between us and Elon and Donald Trump, we have a next best option for mankind. That next best option is something that they are not truly open up to yet, but will become aware of it very soon.
You know, it's amazing because we spent this part of the show prefacing Elon and talking about all the great things we are aware that he does, but it just goes to show you there's a lot of things that a lot of people aren't aware of. And remember, if you see it on the MSM, if you see it on the mainstream media, if you hear it from our current government, it usually goes the opposite. If they're telling us that we're guilty doing something, being we're trying to get together and undo what they have in a deep state process, you look at that and you go, well, no, they told us they caught this guy and that's it. That was the end of it. They tell us, oh, it's okay to do this, and it's not. They tell us this is what happened. They always project what they're doing. The deep state always has this thing on them. So I'm very happy that I was introduced to the 17th letter of the alphabet. I'm not to say that happened in person. What I'm saying is I'm very happy with that. You know, when I first learned about this was just before the pandemic. I think it was January or February of 2020. And I was privileged enough to get some top secret information from somebody. I don't have top secret clearance, or what they call in the government a Q clearance. Imagine that. What a coincidence. But what I'm saying is I was told that the virus was real, the pandemic was fake. I was told certain things about certain individuals, and I'm convinced some of those things are happening behind the scenes right now. Is there anything you can hint at or anything you could tell me that might be happening behind the scenes? Because everything's been a conspiracy theory, and then 3 years later it comes true, but nobody gives you credit for it being true. You know what I mean? We've been on this for a long time here, and we're trying to tell people something, and sure enough, everything comes out to be true. Is there any nugget, is there any gem of anything you can give us that we may see next that may be hidden right now?
Well, something that the proactive streams of affairs of me and my unit members in Space Force are dealing with, and I have pictures for it, is there are certain lower interval hyperloop or hyper tunnels, if you will. They're kind of like hyperloop tunnels, but they're not. These tunnels are differentiated through HARP systems and certain other circulatory systems. And because of that, they are causing a lower agenda problem upon certain areas of interest. And hold on 1 minute.
And folks, to look back on what HARP is, you can go back to any previous show at HARP and you can plug and play. We did deep dives into HARP. Basically, that's a government organization that can and does control the weather. So I find it ironic and weird about the California weather woes right now. Oh yeah.
Show people this.
Yeah, you just send that to me and I'll put it up in post-production.
Right. These, because you could see elevated turns, is something that looks like a funnel. But when I say hyperloop, I just get people's in their minds what it's an understanding
Sure.
of, but it's more or less a funnel. And it's a funnel categorized by certain negative HARP streams and aerodynamic fields. This type of funnel collaborates on a negative alpha stream, and it incubines these certain elements into the area. And it creates more of a heavier substandard upon the area itself. It would weigh things down, and then would accumulate certain bioelement agents. And it would kill off certain areas of plant life, certain areas of crops. It could cause problems for that, as well as sicknesses upon certain animals. This is a little different than COVID. They are starting to pull terms of effect against other substructures and not just against mankind. They're using these biochemical agents for other reasons now.
It's crazy. it's really crazy because everything that's going on in the world is happening for a reason. You know, we got war over in Europe, we got war in the Middle East, we have war everywhere else here, and it's really hard to imagine growing up as a young person not knowing who to believe. You think you could turn on the news and you could believe what they tell you, because that used to be how it was. When I was little, there were 3 channels on the TV, and if the president was on, you were screwed. I mean, you could take what these people told us, and looking back on it now, I wonder how many times they were lying to us as well. My thing is this, is, you know, they can tell us anything they want, but we have found things that come true over time. At first they're conspiracy theory, now they come true. My thing is, we celebrate Elon Musk, and now we're talking about him as the 17th letter of the alphabet. We talk about Donald Trump and you being the quantum twin, and we talk about Trump getting back in and correcting a lot of these things here. So there is hope, there is possibility. I like where things are going now. To sell it in the short term though, Blue, do you think we're going to have an incident, a problem, a catastrophe, a terrorist attack, a stock market crash, a real estate crash? Do you think we're going to have any of those things before or around election time?
There's a lot of little bits and pieces of that already been going around throughout the years. You know, hearsay is hearsay. There could be an electromagnetic field propulsion screen around certain areas elevated on the world, and that could screw up some things for phones, for internet.
We just saw that not long ago.
Yeah, and we discussed about that too, how to 1 of 2 events, co-op military, but also scenes of events that could be moving the current systems into the quantum financial system, which is also the stability system, as the founder for it, to move into the communication systems and those platforms itself to stabilize both into.
You know, it's crazy because I look back at people that, you know, because people are really passionate about politics. And while we talk about, you know, a right side lean on this show, I don't want it to get confused with I'm not so far right that I'm out there. I'm far right enough to know what's right and what's wrong, what's good and what's evil, what should be happening and what shouldn't be happening. So pay attention to Elon, 17th letter of the alphabet. The same source that told me all those things before, I've gotten that information from as well. So I feel real good about having this conversation. I feel real good about saying it. I don't take this show lightly, and I don't take what we do lightly, and I take what we do to be truth. And I'm very happy, Blue, you're here with us for that. I mean, it's all about you. Is there anything else we need to know about the 17th letter or about Musk?
There's certain corporations need to stop biting in the ass. They need to stop picking on them about things, and their own turns need to be played on their roles. He's a very important individual, and he's got his shit right. And if people want to put him down for certain elevational cause wave effects that they don't platonically know, they need to go back to kindergarten. Because this guy's at a much higher level. Without him, a lot of people would be screwed right now.
He's playing 5th level interdimensional chess, and we're all playing checkers. I feel, you know, you can look back. For those of you who are familiar with the 17th letter and following along on the map.pub and following along with certain things, it was always interesting to me how things would be released and you'd go back and look at that time stamp. Even today, those things happen where you can go back and somebody can bring something up and you can go back and you can look and you can find where something was released about that and the exact thing. It may be 2 to 3 years off, but it did indeed happen. And that brings me to one thing before I forget. We had talked in the recent past about time travel, and we had talked about the possibility of things or objects being moved into the future. My question and my thing is, do you think that the 17th letter had access to that future information, released it 2-3 years ago, now it's all starting to come around? Do you think there's validity to that?
That's why we're called Nexus beings.
There you go.
Travelers.
There you go. You heard it right there, folks. This is not something we're just making up here. This is an actual thing. Blue, I feel like a weight's been lifted off my shoulders, yet I feel excited and anxious as ever, being we've talked about this. How do you feel about it?
Absolutely great. I feel hope in the future for mankind. They just got to find their own motivational techniques, gets outside of their boxes, and see what the in-between can actually hold.
Awesome. That coming from Blue Crystal in Phoenix. We really appreciate you watching. We really appreciate you listening. If we're not on a platform you prefer, let me know. We'll try our best to get on that platform. But by all means, do click on like and subscribe and click on notifications so you're notified when we post new material as well. Blue, it's been wonderful catching up in the great outdoors here in Florida. We're fortunate. Not many people get to live in an area you can actually sit outside and enjoy the outside. And it's wonderful being here with you.
And remember, people, we got to keep that. We're not going to have nature forever if we keep motivating what we're doing now. Learn to put the right people into where they need as elites and not have the wrong people there. And learn to motivate yourselves around not just where you're at, but even from within. Because you got to respect nature too. You got to respect the lands. You got to respect the animals. And most of all, you got to respect yourselves. In order to move as a civilization and understand higher beings and other paranormal accounts out there and co-op with them, you got to work as a species yourselves and learn to elevate right and not wrong. That way, humans will be able to ascend. They'll be able to be proactive. They'll be able to act on a better scene than what they currently are. And it is not impossible. Nothing's impossible. Remember, I am possible. Take that M out and know that the I am is there.
Awesome. Wonderful stuff. Thanks again for watching. Thanks again for listening. And make sure you stick around for 46, which will be coming soon as well. Thank you, everybody.